and we'd be piling into a little hotel room that I had on, from work, that I was provided for the whole family. I mean, it was kind of crazy, but fun. I don't know how we did it. And then we'd stay at inexpensive hotels in between trips, sometimes in Boston or up in, Revere. And we'd be in the parking lot redoing our bags. It was almost comical, like, as we were getting ready for the next trip with bags all over the parking lot.
Hi, and welcome back to Chatham Coffee Tour. Today I have my guest and friend, Helen Mulholland. Helen moved here way back when she worked and got a job at Chatham Bars Inn and has lived here year round, got married, and has 3 grown kids that she's raised in town too. Helen is also a flight attendant for Delta, so I am really interested to hear about doing that out of Chatham. So welcome, Helen.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. So, all right, I met Helen back in the good old days when she was working at Chatham Bars Inn. But tell me, you are not from the Northeast. So, how did you get here? Tell about where you're from and how that story unfolded to get you to Chatham.
Well, I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, and I went to school at Auburn University and I studied theater. And I became really good friends with this guy, Mitchell Sims, who had come up here to work. And he was always talking about Chatham Bars Inn and Chatham and how wonderful it was. And he said, "You've got to come up." There was one summer before I graduated from college that me and my best friend, Susu Mitchell, were going to come and work, and it wasn't going to work out. He's like, "I don't think we can get you jobs." So it's kind of wild because had we, maybe we wouldn't have come back. I don't know. But we graduated from college, both of us in theater, and we were like, we don't know what we're going to do. I'm not even sure if I want to be an actress because this experience of auditioning was just so horrible just at college. How am I going to deal with it in real life? and So our parents bought us one-way tickets up because Mitch was here again. He kept coming to college and coming back, and he said, we'll get you jobs. So we came and we lived in his dorm, and we both interviewed. She interviewed at the bar for being a waitress at the bar, and I interviewed for being a relief night auditor at the front desk, and we got the jobs.
I
So
forgot that you were the night auditor, one of the night auditors. How was that working the night shift?
it turned me forever against red eyes because I hated being up all night. So now I'm in a job where people work red eyes, and I avoid them like the plague.
Because
So
you didn't like, and you did you do that all summer? Did you ever waitress? I kind of have a memory.
never ever waitressed, never. But I almost broke down the computer, and the then assistant GM, Chris Diego, had to come in at 7 in the morning when the whole system shut down and people were checking out on a very busy July morning. It was quite a nightmare, and I remember leaving work in tears. I mean, we got it back working, but it was like very horrific.
That is, well, and that was a new computer system because I remember back when I was working there, they had paper booking sheets. So you
Right.
were there when it switched over to the computer system?
I was there, 1990, so this was July of 1990.
They must have done that. I think they did it right after the those what we called the new owners when the Langeliers bought it from the McMahons.
Exactly. And I'd probably never even worked a computer before, so it was all new to me.
You're like, I'm a theater girl. What I'm doing here?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, it was pretty traumatic, but we got through it.
That's funny. Yeah, and you chose not to go into accounting from that.
Definitely not. But it's funny, I did learn how to do it. And, in the winters, I stayed on. I stayed working. My friend and I both did. And I got good at doing the night audit, especially since it only took about an hour in January, I guess. Yeah.
Right, to get it all to
Yes.
sync. Yeah, I
Yeah.
bet.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So when you
Oh,
were working there, you met a handsome wine steward.
yes, I did. Working in the bar with my friend Susu was a man, Sean Mulholland, who was a teacher who had come and done the whole summer job thing, including Chatham Bars Inn in the summer. So the bar was right next to the front desk. So there was opportunity for some talk and flirtation. And he may have even let my friend Susu know at some point. But many times after work, as you remember, even if you worked the late shift, you would go to the Squire or just to the Oyster for
The
last
oyster, I
call or
remember going to
whatnot.
the oyster
Yeah.
for
So there were times when a group of us did that, and I probably would have conversations with him there as well. So yeah, it was
And
fun.
then later on, you married, and the rest is history.
So basically I worked at Chatham Bars Inn for a year and a half straight, and then decided I wanted to get a different job and maybe live in Boston. And since being from Atlanta, I was drawn to becoming a flight attendant with Delta. And I knew that if I became a flight attendant with Delta, I could live away and still be connected to my family. And I also knew that I was interested in customer service, but I wasn't the kind of person that really wanted to stand behind a desk. So, and I had a cousin who also led me into that job. So basically, I got the job a year and a half later, and so that was in on 92. And my husband at that time had been teaching in Maine, then boyfriend, and he moved down to DC where his family was, and he got a job at a school there. And we saw each other long distance. So then when we got married, he had bought a cottage here and on Old Queen Anne Road, and we decided to move back in 2000. So we got married in 94. Had our first two sons in Virginia, and I commuted to New York, and then we moved up here in 2000, and then I was based in Boston. So
And you continued to work kind of throughout. You may have taken some time off with the boys.
yeah, so there was some flexibility with some leaves. Sometimes it was a struggle because I didn't work high hours back then, but finding someone to take care of your children was a struggle when you didn't have family. And we might have hired some lady that we put an ad in the Chronicle, and she ended up being Cape Cod rough woman who was smoking cigarettes outside. Not a good idea. We had to fire her pretty soon. But then fortunately we found moms who had groups of where they would babysit groups of children, so it was great, and that was very helpful. We had several different moms that did that, so that was wonderful.
So you've been working for Delta since 1990, 94?
92, so 34 years.
Wow. All right, the biggest question that I'm sure everybody has is how do you do that from Chatham? Because for those of you who don't know, we are 90 miles from Boston, Logan Airport, roughly. And there is an airport in Hyannis, and then also from Providence, another hour and a half drive at least. So how do you work,
Yeah.
how do you fit that in?
Well, the one thing about this job is your schedule has a lot of flexibility, and you don't work 5 days a week. You might work, if you worked 5 days in one week, then you probably have the next 2 weeks off, So it's kind of, you can rearrange your schedule. You can work as little as you want if you have the seniority to get away with that, or as much as you want. And sometimes I do backup trips and get myself a hotel on my own time in Boston if I want to do that. But I used to take the Plymouth and Brockton bus a lot. They offered a wonderful discount to airline people. During COVID, they got new management, and now the discount only applies to people going just to South Station. So for me, if I can't take the bus all the way to Logan, it doesn't really work. So I drive. I drive. So.
And where do you park? Is there an employee parking lot or?
There's employee parking at Chelsea. Delta probably would pay for the bus, but the thing is, you have to make a choice. You have to choose one option, and I need all options. So I sometimes do Logan Express, but I can get discount tickets with them, just showing them my ID, which is really helpful. So sometimes for rush hour, because the HOV lane is there from Logan Express on 93. So that's great for rush hour. If I'm even doing a 1 day trip that's going to work in rush hour and I'm going to come home the same day, then that Logan Express really helps.
I do like the Plymouth and Brockton bus. I take it a lot if I can. It's sort of for me. It's a math situation too. Of part. It depends how long the trip is, and for me, it depends when I'm getting back because if I'm landing at 10 o'clock, there's usually one bus you can try and catch, and if you miss
Yes.
it, then you miss it. So
Well, if you're going to be gone for a long time, it pays for itself because you're not paying for parking. So that part is really good. Yeah, but for me, who's back and forth, is sometimes not as great. Yeah, for to pay $80 just to go to work.
right, right. But I do like the convenience of having a car there. That is usually my preferred way.
Yes. Well, my sons, when they come to visit, two of my sons live, away, and that's what they do. They take that to come visit. So,
Mhm. Yeah, that's nice. It's nice to not, it is a great convenience to not have to go drive, a 3 hour round trip plus to go pick
right.
somebody up from the airport. It is sort of nice.
But I have gotten used to podcasts, and audiobooks help get me through my drive, and I can get so invested in it that by the time I get home, I'm still listening to whatever it is. So,
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I do that too because I go up to Boston a good amount to see my kids. Or yesterday I had a doctor's appointment for my son, so I was up and back in a day. And same, I listen to podcasts and
so-
audiobooks. Yeah.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
great.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. So your husband Sean, then he started teaching. He taught both in the Monomoy school system, and now he's still at the Nauset school system. Is that right?
Yes, he taught when it was just the Chatham system. And when we were going to regionalize with Harwich, he wanted to kind of go to a different system that was already in place, and Nauset just had a really good reputation, and it was mainly for our sons. He just wanted it for our sons mainly, and he got the Latin job. I mean, he was a Latin teacher, and that teacher was retiring. So at the very time that all this was happening, so basically, our three boys kind of went from Chatham and then went into the Nauset system and did really well there, all three of them. So,
And because we have school choice, so you can live in Chatham and
exactly,
send your kids to any high school in the Cape, provided they have an opening available for
exactly. And
they're
they
going to
had a
go to.
very good soccer program too.
Yes, and John was part of that, wasn't he?
Yeah, so Sean was assistant coach, and my two of my older sons both were involved with the soccer, and they were on the varsity soccer team, and did very well. And my middle son went to state. He was a team captain when they had won the state championship. So in 2016. So that was kind of a big deal.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, yeah, it was. Yeah,
And so,
yeah.
because you had a teacher for a husband who had the summers off, you did something which is going to sound to people that don't know about it very unusual, but it's actually kind of common. I used to do it myself. My sister's done it before, which is you rented out your year round house and left the Cape for the summer and were able to travel, obviously, with your flight discount, I'm sure. So, tell about what your summers have been like.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we were nomads for so what when we did that cottage that we moved to, we ended up building a nice house in the same location, and someone bought that cottage for a penny and moved it to Brewster. And we have a lovely house, but he's a teacher and I'm a flight attendant, so it was very helpful that we could rent it out. And we kind of every summer it was a little different, and we were kind of flexible. It wasn't always Saturday to Saturday. We just would kind of go with what we got from various renters, but we would do the turnovers. So many of the times I would bid trips with interesting layovers, even in Europe, and we would all be going while I was working to wherever, Barcelona, Paris, and we'd be piling into a little hotel room that I had from work, that I was provided for the whole family. I mean, it was kind of crazy, but fun. I don't know how we did it. And then we'd stay at inexpensive hotels in between trips, sometimes in Boston or up in, Revere, and we'd be in the parking lot redoing our bags. It was almost comical, like, as we were getting ready for the next trip with bags all over the parking lot.
That's so great. So imagine you're in Paris and you have to race back to Chatham because you have to do the turnover your cottage, which to those who don't know what that means scrub cleaning the entire place, changing the sheets, the whole thing. So you're living this glamorous life, what seems like in Paris, shooting
Yeah.
back to like turn the house over. That is
Right. Well, we would make plans. We'd always make sure to be back, whatever my schedule was, we would be back in time to do that turnover. And we may have had a place to stay close by the day before or even camped. Sometimes we camped at Nickerson, but we always made sure. So, yeah, and doing the turnover was hard. Yeah. But and there was a lot of comical moments where my sons remember me screaming from down in the basement and Sean screaming up from the third floor, second floor, like down, where's the chair, like crazy stuff.
yeah. Well, I rented my house for years too, so I did turnovers myself, and it was a lot because a lot of times what people don't probably know is that tenants feel very comfortable, so they just move things around a little bit the way they like it. So you get back and you're like, wait a second, I have to put all the furniture back and find just things are out of place, and it's not usually a big deal. Actually, it was one thing that my kids did not like about coming home. I loved coming home after renting my house because it was so clean.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything was organized for the rental. Yeah.
Yeah, so when you were done with your whole summer, that part was great because your house was clean, but then it's the gradual moving your things back into place, and you kind of don't want to move things back because everything's so pristine, and it takes many years. It's taken me till Christmas to actually I'd be like, where is that item that I need? Oh yeah, it's still in the basement, that type of thing. Like,
It was hard. Yeah, I remember putting the kids, it would be the end of school. I'd be in the panic to get ready to rent, and they would take their backpacks and just kind of huck them into the attic. And some of those backpacks didn't get reopened for quite some time.
yeah, it's so funny. It's exactly what it's like.
It
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
lot of panic, especially with little kids. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but it works. It works out because it enables you to do the travel and pay some bills and keep the house going too. So
Right. And it makes you purge too. I mean, we now do it only for a shorter time. And like we just save the last 2 weeks of July. And if we fill them, great. Right now we just have 1 week. We'd like to fill the second week. But I like the purging part because, I find that even as I get older, you just accumulate. And you're like, why do I have all this stuff? And I just want, okay, it's time to go to the dump and get rid of it.
yeah, totally. And the purging, but also I would do things like buy new bath mats and,
True.
things that
I
you
just did that.
ignore.
Yep.
Yep, that you kind of like, oh, it's fine for us, but it's not fine for other people. So it gets all that done too.
Very true. Very, very true. Yeah.
Yeah. So I also always ask people, like, what is your favorite place in Chatham? Like, where do you like to go? Your secret spot?
I have several spots. I just discovered that I love to walk on like Morris Island where you're on the Monomoy like kind of refuge place where I'm walking on that path that's like a nature trail that takes you basically to the sort of southeasternmost point and feel like I'm on the elbow. And I don't know, I've just in the past few years, that's one of my favorite little spots to go and just view it and be like, I'm on the elbow. And then actually walking on that whole trail.
It's such a neat trail too, because
Yeah, it is.
you go down the road, then you go through the woods, and you
Yes.
come out on the beach.
Beach. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's
And
great.
it's so pretty. And there's some of the, because the water's washed over some of those trees, they almost look like, they
Yes.
remind me of, the slee stacks in the 70s,
Yes.
like they're just like these kind of stripped down trees that come out of the ground. I don't know. I think it's a really serene place.
It is a very serene place. So, I mean, there's so many things like that that I do love about Chatham, from the triangle, even, which is like a walk in the woods and this like triangle. And yeah, there's so many trails. And then I love the Orpheum Theater. I love our library. I mean, there's so many things. I love my church, First Congregational Church. There's so many things about Chatham that if my husband said, maybe we should leave and sell our house, I can't leave these things. I'm not ready yet. I don't know if I'll ever be ready.
Well, it is nice, and when you've lived here for quite some time to know people, like I never see you. I mean, maybe once a year. Like I don't run into you. You'd think because it's such a small town in the winter, you'd run into the same people over and over, but for some reason you don't. It's very interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And the one thing about my job, I will say that I really don't like is that it does make me a little more disconnected. And then when I come home, I am sometimes more nesting and I may not even be as social because of that, the aspects of that job and just kind of coming home and regrouping. When I was younger, I probably was just because I was younger and I had small children. But now I find that I'm older, it's like harder. I don't know. So that part I don't love, but it is what it is. I still like my job. So
That's great. And where
yeah.
do you have any good trips coming up?
I do. We get more destinations. Even though I had been to Madrid when I was based in New York for a while, I commuted to New York. We didn't have this out of Boston, so we have more international out of Boston. And even though I tend to do more domestic, I like to keep my foot in the door. So we get Edinburgh only in the summer or the warmer months, and I'm going to go to Edinburgh next month and I'm going to go to Madrid and then I'm going to do some domestic too. But it's like, I got to like keep my foot in the door because if you don't work the international flights for so long, you kind of forget. It's kind of a whole different environment and protocol than the domestic, which I find to be a more laid back kind of way of going, even though the days can be crazy with weather and such. But I mean, just how you do the service, how the people are, how the other flight attendants are.
Right. And have you been to Edinburgh before? I'm sure you've been everywhere.
Yes, I try to go because we've had that for several years, and I try to go at least once a summer. I love it, and I'm going close to the solstice, so it'll be really light.
Oh, I love it. That my daughter, Hannah lived there for a while,
That's
and
right. That's
I
right.
went over a couple times, and it's a pretty neat spot. Is there any place you haven't been that you're dying to figure out how to get there?
I've never been either just on my own for travel, or I've never been to Australia, or New Zealand, or even close. Um, Traveling, I've been to some exotic places that were not, work. It was just for my travel. I've been to the most exotic places I've been are probably India, Thailand, and Japan. But those were all just trips that I took on my own. But yeah, so yeah, I went to India. Okay, fun fact. One of my bosses when I came to work at the front desk, Tanya Shaw, now Tanya Gray, became one of my best friends. And when I became a flight attendant, she's half Indian. She said, one day we're going to go to India. Well, we just did that last year. So
You did? Oh, that must have
yes,
been
we
a
did.
great. I could just see the two of
Was
you having a great time there.
Yeah,
That's
well, it was a
neat.
family wedding. It was a family wedding. It was her first cousin once removed, but then she and I went off on our own and went to Goa. So
Wow.
yeah,
Does
yeah.
she go over a lot? So she must have been a pretty good tour guide or help
Oh
you out.
yeah. Well, her father also. I mean, it was like her father, her sister, and basically, yes, he's great, and he hires a driver every time he goes, and that driver would take us places, and yeah, it was pretty amazing. So, yeah, and Goa was like I felt like it was like I felt like they should have had a White Lotus shabby chic down in Goa because this place we stayed was this interesting little resort with all these characters and it was just wild. It was great.
Oh, that sounds like a great time though. I
Yeah.
would, that's a neat trip. It's nice to get away and then to come back to, Little Chatham. It must be
Yeah.
so fun.
Yeah. Well, I always appreciate it though. Always appreciate it. Love being close to the ocean here. So,
I
yeah.
do too. I remember when I was in college and was in Europe and traveled all through Europe and I loved it and saw some beautiful spots, but I kept thinking, I just want to come back to Chatham. So
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah. Got to go dive in. Harding's Beach is another place that I love.
Oh,
Okay. Even though
Harding's
it has
Beach.
seaweed. Yeah, it has seaweed, but some days it doesn't. And on those beautiful days, it could be as good as the Mediterranean, if not better.
Well, that reminds me that Helen started something that I will forever be indebted to her for. When her oldest was in kindergarten, was it the first day of his
Yep,
kindergarten?
yep,
Helen
yep.
invited all the moms to celebrate the back to school day. And we did that every back to school day until your youngest got out of
Exactly.
high
Till he
school,
was a
right?
senior in high school. He was a senior in high school, was the last one. And
So
then I
all the
said, no
moms would
more.
come, and you could bring your little ones if you had little babies at home, and we'd have a big brunch at Helen's house. And then over the
We'd
years,
have mimosas. Don't forget, we had
oh
mimosas and
yeah,
Bloody
we
Marys. Don't
definitely had
forget
some
that.
mimosas. It was the great way for moms just to kind of celebrate that we got through
Yes.
another summer
It was
without
really
kids.
fun. It was really fun.
It
Yeah.
was
And
really
now we
fun,
meet at
but
the beach. We meet at
now
the
we
beach
meet at
now.
Harding's Beach. That's what I was going to say. And it's just really nice to see the people that we've been meeting together for so long. It's
Yes.
such a great, it
It
was,
is really great. I look forward to that. I definitely look forward to that every year. So,
it's a
yeah.
fun
Yeah.
catch up. Well, great. Well, thank you, Helen. Thanks so much for coming on the show and telling us about your insight and your travel. And really interesting to talk to you.
Well, thanks for having me, Barbara. This has been fun.
Great.
Okay.
Hope
All
we'll see
right.
you next time. Thanks for coming.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. For more local stories, favorite spots, and inspiring people who chose Chatham, follow and subscribe to Chatham Coffee Tour and stay connected. Whether you're already here or dreaming about life in Chatham, this is your place to belong.